was like, what? You know, and he said, how dare you, you know, put this in this interview. I said to you, I talked to you all this stuff off the record. And I said to him, that's untrue. I would never, ever print anything that was off the record. And because he still didn't believe me, I actually sent him the copies of the interview tapes, a copy of them, and he never said, you know, anything about it being off the record. It was a complete integral part of the interview. But then what I said to him, once he, you know, called up and he actually apologized, okay, I realized I meant to say it off the record to him. I said, but why? You know, here you are worshipped. Imagine if you came out and told teenage kids that it is awesome to be in recovery. You know, you can have the best life ever, you can have fun, you can have, you know, you can have a great life, which, you know, kids don't know. You know, hopefully that will happen more and more. And I think when someone like you do this, and you show others that not only is it possible, but it can be affirming and it can help other people. And what is a better, you know, sort of most more profound way to live than helping other people? What's that, Matt?
Thank you very much for your talk of this. It is, I almost begin to feel the rage too. And one of the things that I find paradoxical is that you know, I'm a member of the AA, and who would have thought that the byword of alcoholics would have been anonymous? I mean, you're talking about a groundswell here. It is pretty strong. I mean, I remember I just read something on the wall at a meeting where the last words of Bill W. was the importance of keeping this secret and respecting the anonymity of the people. I mean, what you're doing is it's extremely exciting, but it is really going to be, it's a groundbreaker. The only consolation I can feel is that it's like you would point out to, there are other things that are analogous to it in terms of the fight for being open about being gay, the HIV and the stigmas and so on. So there are lessons to be learned that can help us, but who knows, maybe someday it'll be, instead of Alcoholics Anonymous, Alcoholics in Action or something. Just, we're going to go a long way to go.
You know, I think that it's important to look, if you put it in perspective, when, you know, this began, was it 70, 80 years ago when Bill W., you know, they started Alcoholics Anonymous, there was probably a very strong reason, you know, to keep it secret. It was a different world. That's not that there's still prejudice, but, you know, there was a sense, you could not be a professional person in New York and go to work and have people know that you were an alcoholic. It just, but what has that perpetuated? And I agree with you. There's this great new film coming out with this kid. It's a young kid. It's this brilliant documentary. It's called, it's got something anonymous. It's called, and he starts out and he's showing himself, and he's like really young and cool looking, and he tells about himself, and he says, and I'm an addict in recovery. And then he says, and this is my friend, and he puts his arm around the man and he says, again, I'm not sure exactly the words, but he says something like, and this is my friend so-and-so, I don't remember his name, and he's a crack addict. And oh, by the way, he's the chairman and founder of Subway. And then he goes to somebody else, and there's Miss America from somewhere. I mean, it is profound. You know, I know that there's complexity here, but I think that if once people start to tease it apart, you realize that, I know that there's a part of the anonymity thing. And when it talks about, you know, press and stuff like that, I mean, to me, again, maybe it made sense sometimes. It does harm now, in my opinion. I know a lot of people don't agree with me. But there is a piece of it that I understand that, you know, there is this idea that, you know, the ego gets in the way of recovery, and that, you know, there's something about being anonymous, but the overall, I think that, you know, that as long as we don't talk about it, nothing's going to change. And also, you know, it's this whole thing about being alone. You know, if we don't talk about it, you know, I've heard people tell me I said this thing about the next cubicle. You know, somebody told me that a person finally stopped coming to work and kept calling in sick, and she was concerned enough that she actually called him and spoke to his wife and went to see him. And, you know, he had told her that he was an addict, and that's why he'd been missing so much work. And she said, and they'd worked together for 10 years. She said, you know, all this time I was sitting next to somebody, and because, you know, we can't talk about it. Anyway, I'm hopeful that will change. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, hi, I'm Carmine, and I am an alcoholic, so let's get that. I'm also an interventionist, so I get to meet families at the point of crisis. And you know, just even in listening to you, how early on it was about throw Nick out, let him hit bottom. You know, for me, that's a concept, especially bottom, that doesn't even exist because it keeps shifting. The whole notion of this tough love where you just throw a person out without having any safety nets is just preposterous. I oftentimes tell families that that's not what an intervention is about. It's not about just throwing a kid out and forgetting about them. You can never expect a parent to do that. That's, you know, destructive to both psyches. More importantly, I think we do have to look at addiction as the medical condition that it is, and that's where we oftentimes seem to fall short. We keep seeing it as the behavioral problems and all the you know, areas that people get into trouble with that. But the bottom line is it is a medical condition, and it is really unfortunate how we have so missed the opportunity on many occasions to give people the health care that they need for this. So I really appreciate hearing your story. I've recommended your book many times to parents to read. And I'm really looking forward to hearing your new book or reading it. So thank you for coming. Thank you for sharing with us. You've done us all a service today.
Thank you. One thing I was just going to say about what you said, thank you. This idea of hitting bottom and this idea of this man, Dr. Thomas McClellan, who's this great, scientist, researcher, he said that, we know this is a progressive disease and a chronic illness, which means progressive means if you're not treating it, it gets worse. And so he said this idea of waiting and this idea of hitting bottom, he says it's like waiting until a diabetic, you have to, amputate a leg before you start to treat it. He says that, it is insane because, it's easier to treat. It's harder to treat the worse it gets. But the other thing, of course, we also know, I cannot, again, the letters, the stories of people, just the other day, a heartbreaking letter that said something like, we kept hearing this, he's got to hit bottom, he's got to hit bottom, he overdosed and he's dead, is that his bottom,
Hi, I'm Simone. I came up from San Diego in class down there at UCSD to be an alcohol and drug counselor. And I come from that family. I was drug use, for 5 years, but I was a flight attendant in debutante. And I'm adopted, and my parents are black, and in our family, you sweep it under the rug. A lot of times the minority families just you don't talk about it, you keep it hush hush. But I drugged for 5 years, stopped that in 95, but then I picked up the drinking and that just went on. Oh, have a drink. My dad was even, what do you want? We're going to keep it fully stocked. And I was flying every day and, drinking and going to work and missing trips sometimes. Finally got fired. But in 2009, 2010, I was living back in Florida. Got my second DUI, and it was this place and this show, along with my treatment back there, that I was kicking and screaming because it was court mandated to go to. That at home I had no license, I lost my license, and because I had this show to watch and also intervention I was watching, it helped me get through. People were like, oh, you're watching that stuff on TV, that's nothing, but that was, for me, part of my treatment, because I wasn't buying into the court mandated stuff until I finally started getting it. And my good friend Kim here, who's been in recovery for a long time, lived here in LA, and I would call her and she said, quit going to the meetings looking at the differences. You are like them, you just look at the similarities. And it's, I lost a friend this past year and she was having addiction issues, and I was the one in my group of friends that they were sending to go talk to her. And I thought, you know what, Lord, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I, just along with that, and this is my own recovery. I just want to thank everybody here at this facility who works here, because this show did help me with celebrity rehab when it was here. And I'm so excited to hear and read your book, because we're going to take it back to class. Trent and I are in class together in San Diego tonight. And probably tell our teacher about it in class. But thank you for sharing.
I don't know how much more time we have. Why don't we say, 2 more questions, if that's okay. We're starting.
My name is Maria, and I'm a recovered alcoholic. Some points that you brought up that are really crucial. I'm from Tampa, And when I moved there from Pasadena, I never heard of blues and Roxy's and these pill epidemics, and it's rampant in Florida, probably the highest in the country. And it's a supply and demand type of feature. And getting into the pill mills and getting into who's supplying these drugs is crucial, and getting to where the pinpoint of the nature of who's supplying these drugs is crucial. The prison systems too is essential, and it's totally screwed up. If you go into the jails and institutions, it's the prison systems is totally messed up. I totally agree with that. The reform, education on that part is essential. Nothing is done. We're put into the South and nothing is done. There's no education whatsoever. And I totally agree upon that. I just don't even know where to begin on that system. There's a system where you go in, go out, Goga, go in, get out, and they help reform people getting out of the prison systems. But also bipolar that you hit on. I'm bipolar myself, and I think the mind of a depressed person and an addict, the similarities, the only difference between depression and addiction is the drug itself. They're very similar, and you don't treat, with the similarities. It just, those are three crucial points. So I just want to thank you so much for bringing that up. My mother could stand there and tell the same exact story.
Well, thank you. One thing I was just going to mention again in looking for the light, and also, Mackenzie, to your point that that it has to be talked about and embraced by people who actually have an audience and some power to influence people. Specifically related to the pill problem, pills are killing again more people than any other drug, and of course, there also is a connection of people who start using OxyContin or Vicodin, and then they can't any longer afford them or have that easy access to them. Oftentimes, become addicted to heroin. And every day, the people who are dying of prescription pills. One of the really hopeful things I learned about is today, of all people, President Clinton has launched through the Clinton Foundation an initiative that's specifically targeting prescription pill abuse in America in the audience, in the age group that needs it the most. I think they're going from 15 to 24 or something like that, dealing with college kids and pre-college. First of all, they have this, by the way, go online, I forget what it's called, you do a pledge online. It's not about pledge money, it's a pledge to be involved. It's the Clinton Health Initiative, and then you click on their drug, and their new drug misuse, anyway, what it's called. But again, the fact that, first of all, the work they'll do themselves is really important, but the fact that, I was told that it was because President Clinton has a friend who, I don't know if he died, but he was an addict for years, and he kind of gets it, or he does get it. And so, again, what a force to work with us on this, President Clinton. And so this is another reason to be hopeful. But the prescription pill thing is crazy. They do surveys, kids don't understand that they're as dangerous as other drugs. My daughter, Daisy, 16, last week, she had to have her wisdom teeth pulled out. And when she came home, Karen showed me the prescription that they gave her. They gave her a prescription for 20 Vicodin, refillable 3 times. So a 16-year-old girl, all she had was her teeth pulled out, and they gave her 60 Vicodin pills. She ended up, refilled the first prescription. She took them for a day and a half, which means we now have, 57 pills left, or 59, or almost. We didn't get the other 2 prescriptions, but so we have, what we could have that many. Is it because the drug companies are making more money when they sell 60 pills versus 5, or because the doctors just don't want to think about it, and so they just prescribe these things? Whatever, education, regulation. I mean, it's obviously insane. And then they do have programs. In fact, I think it was just a couple weeks ago. There was a thing around the country where you could bring your prescription pills to take back. bring your prescription pills, because a lot of people don't even know. It's like when Nick opened up that medicine cabinet, there's a Vicodin there. Parents, parents know, either lock them away or get rid of them, because that's the #1 place where kids get drugs, get prescription drugs, is, from their parents. I said that, I forgot, it was a kid, yeah. And then,
I just want to say it's amazing what you're doing, because I spent 18 years in and out of treatments and in an addiction, and I've been sober 2.5 years now. I have 4 young children of my own that are all under the age of 10, but I have a 25-year-old stepson who I just had to go to the coroner's office for the first time on Monday, because I got a call saying that, friends saying that he was dead. We found him, thank God he was still alive, but I've had that fear and I've had the table turned on me. And it's the most heart-wrenching thing, because I'm the only parent he has right now. His father's in prison and his mother's in addiction. So I'm almost 30, but I'm the only parent he has. And I'm in your shoes now. And now I realize what I've done to my parents. And I think it's amazing what you're doing, opening that window and pulling back those curtains to show people what this life is like.
thank you, I'm so sorry. But he's
alive. But he's still out there, and I've set it up several times for him to go into treatment, and he doesn't show.
Well, the one thing that they also say is that all the people who work here, I'm sure can tell you, and all the research shows that people who are loved are so much more likely to do well, and clearly his love. I gotta think it was going to be okay. Okay, one more, and then, I'm not going to, I'll be here for a while. I was going to sit somewhere, out there, I guess, and I'm happy to sign books, and, we'd love to talk more.
You've done a lot of research and discussion for probably both of your books and your own family. What's your assessment of the climate with regard to the effectiveness of 12-step recovery?
12-step recovery is it's so profound. It's helped so many people. And I don't have to tell anybody who, my dearest best friend is alive because of the 12 steps, and she's been sober for 30 years. I write about the 12 steps in the book, about where I have gotten some flack for it, because I'm never criticizing the 12 steps, because I think that it is an amazingly profound system, and even for people who are in recovery, you can learn so much. But I'm responding to the fact that Nick went to programs, and again, how many letters? My son was in 7 treatment programs. They were all, not just 12-step based, but there was a requirement that you had to do the steps, and you had to believe in the steps, and if you didn't, you were kicked out, or you were, Nick, it happened to Nick. Nick was like this pissed off, angry teenager, and so he was resisting, Nick wasn't going to turn his life over to anybody, and he was not going to, he just didn't believe in the higher power. And he left programs pissed off. He was kicked out of a program because he was such an asshole, but teenagers are assholes, and teenagers on drugs, So my problem is not anything to do with the 12 steps. It's the insistence of some people in the program, and especially, I think people, it's really about programs that insist, and there are a lot of them that say that you have to do it this one way. It's the only way. I was in a meeting where Nick was yelled at, as a parent. He was called all kinds of names by the counselor, and the counselor and he was saying, if you don't do this, if you don't turn your life over to God and practice the steps, you are going to die. And some people did. I went to a drug court, a speech by a drug court judge in San Mateo, California, and he said he tells the kids in his drug court, these are kids who are arrested, have drug problems, addicted, whatever. He tells the kids in the drug court, in his drug program, that if you do not believe in God, you are a bug on the windshield. And here's a judge who has the opportunity to help these kids, so that's my problem with it. It's not about, it's anyway. So I'm going to say, say thank you so much. I'll be here.